This is Make No Little Plans with Ivonne, and today my guest is...
Tomás Uribe.
Tomás, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Tomás is a musician, composer, and entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of Stereotheque, and today we'll be discussing his start in the industry, his career, his industry knowledge, and we'll have fun learning a bit about his musical taste, so take note if you're just starting out. All right, so Tomás, can you tell everybody where we are right now and what it means to you?
Right, so we're here in the middle of Washington Square Park, New York City. This is a city where I came to live almost like 5 years ago. And it's very dear to me because kind of like Washington Square Park and the history that it has, it's been all around music. A lot of great artists of this past and current century were here, like Electric Lady Studios was just down the street, where Jimi Hendrix recorded. Cafe Wow, where tons of artists also perform. So I think it's very it's very important and relevant to the entire music industry, both domestically and internationally.
Thanks. So we're just going to go into a few questions about to get to understand you and your career.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us what is your earliest memory of a song? Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I had two older sisters, or I still have two older sisters, but when I was younger, I listened to a lot of music through them. Mainly through radio, but when CDs started to come out and become popular, they started to buy a lot of CDs, a lot of like 90s music and typical, pop, R&B, so like, everything from Whitney Houston to Mariah Carey to, even Celine Dion, Cat Stevens, Billy Joel, so a lot of that like folky R&B pop music. A lot of it was coming through, through the U.S. So a lot of the records that were playing here, they were, going down to Colombia, where I'm from originally. So I think one of the first songs that I really connected with and that I really liked was actually a band called Ace of Base. It's a very much like 90s band. I remember so much like the CDs.
You spoke a little bit about your musical influences, but about people that are not so famous. Could you share actually who some of your teachers or maybe even career mentors along the way would be? Like, who would your top three chart?
Yeah. I think I have, there's been a lot of people that have touched, kind of like my career and in different points, but I think one of the most important ones was when I was very little, when I was young, when I was like 7 years old, I started at a musical academy. And the director of that musical academy, her name was Maria Beatriz Giraldo de Calle, and she's been really kind of like recognized in the kind of like youth movement of music in Colombia, specifically about like classical music and musical education. There was a choir that she directed, and
when you were 7.
Yeah, when I was 7, and since then until I was like 18 years old, she was kind of like my musical mentor, right? And through that academy, that's where I learned the first things about musical theory of composition, music readings, solfeggio, whatever, guitar. So I think she was the first one. The second one, I would say that probably in the university, is not a person that I had a lot of contact with, but he was my first kind of like composition professor, teacher, and he was also like this enigmatic figure within the faculty of music in Bogota. His name is Guillermo Gaviria, and I think it was more than his musical ability, was his ability to make you connect with what he was or not saying. He was also very passionate about Bach. That's how I became also very passionate about Bach and his music and the whole idea of behind it, right? And then after that, I would say more like separated. I mean, obviously not a direct influence or a direct contact with that person, but indirectly it would be Trent Reznor. He's the founder of 9 Inch Nails. And also he was previously the chief creative officer of Beats Music before it was bought by Apple. So I think he kind of like encompasses a lot of the creativity that as an artist I like to have, both on the entrepreneurial side, also on the on the musical side. He also won an Oscar as best soundtrack for The Social Network for the Facebook movie. So yeah, I think he's a big influence also on me.
You spoke a little bit about studying music since you were very young. So can you hop us through real quickly, studying music, teaching, the prize you won that brought you to the United States as well?
Yeah, so a little bit of the initial like music lessons that I had were again like in the music academy. With I shared a lot of this time with a lot of other kids like my age. We had the opportunity to travel abroad, and we even sang with the Vienna Boys Choir, which back then they were very popular as well. And obviously we were just like 12, 13, 14 years old, so we were very young, but at the same time we were like experiencing the idea of going through life and traveling around the world through music, and you were traveling with your friends, so it was
cool
great.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
abroad?
like Vienna, for example, was
so
amazing.
You did go straight
yeah,
to,
we went to Vienna. We went to different music festivals around Europe, so like Spain, in northern Italy, in France. So a lot of these like regions that you would never think about, and at a very young age we had like this connection with a lot of different cultures, all through music, right? We didn't even know they were the same language, but we were always connecting with them through music. So that was great. And right after I graduated, I studied 1 semester of industrial engineering because back then, studying music was kind of like taboo, and it was a little bit hard to, for my parents to acknowledge that, are you gonna really live, out of music?
Like a real career, that perception.
Exactly. So my mother played the accordion, my dad played the guitar, my sisters both sang and played piano. My uncle was an artist, so a lot of like art was always around my family and my friends, but never as a professional career. Yeah. My parents are both engineers. My sister's a doctor. My other sister's an engineer. So everything was around like the typical traditional careers. Yeah, so I think it was a little bit tough for me also like to really feel confident enough to tell them like yes. So I just went straight to study industrial engineering for 1 semester. But right after 2 months I was like constantly missing the idea of I don't have music every single day, and I'm not thinking about it every single day. So I was like really missing it, and it was kind of like the first time that I felt that I really have to do it, right? I have to do music all the time. So I just transferred my major to music composition in the same university, Universidad Javeriana in Bogota, and since then I had a band. Throughout my band I had different opportunities composing for film, for advertising, for different things that projects that we were having. And at the same time I started to teach. So that's I went back to the academy, and I taught all sorts of different types of classes, so like everything from bass, guitar, ensembles, music theory, composition. I managed a lot of the teachers as well at the musical academy, so that was a great experience for me. I love teaching, and I think it's a great way to influence someone's ability to be passionate about music. And then after that, I guess towards the end of my kind of like the band period with Sound the City, that's the name of the band. In 2012, I was just eager to come to New York and to study here and to be able to complement my music creativity with other stuff. And that's why I decided to come here and do a master's degree in New York on media and technology. And I always had the idea of how can I intersect those things that I love, which is music, which is basically the core of everything that I do, at the same time with technology and with design, which are other two big passions that I have. So that's that leads me to now.
There was a prize along the lines.
Well, the prize was after I began kind of with the really focusing on the idea of Stereotheque, which is the company that I have today. It's a technology startup. It's a platform, and once we kind of coincided with the team and we said, all right, let's focus a little bit more on this. We created a small prototype and we applied to a competition that was 1 year ago almost, and then it was a contest sponsored by the Inter-American Development Bank and MIT Technology Review, and we were fortunate enough to win over on top of 700 proposals from 20 different countries, and they gave us $10,000 to continue developing the prototype.
Thanks for sharing that. And along the lines, so you started mentioning Stereotheque. Can you elaborate a little bit on like Simon Sinek's why? So he always says that there should be a why. Why did you develop it?
Yeah.
Why? And also what problem is it solving?
Right. That's good. Well, yeah, I think making a startup in general is very hard. I think any project is very hard, especially in music. I think it's even harder because music is this kind of like intangible art form that you cannot put a price tag on it, right? I mean you can't kind of like feel it. It's not like a product that you can purchase and that's it. even though today is being commoditized, right? So the idea for me at the beginning was this frustration as an artist that I had always to label my music in with a specific name, like rock or pop or genre, right? But at the same time, I felt that I come from a very globalized country. I have tons of different music influences, from everything from Baroque to Renaissance music to contemporary to rock, industrial rock. So all these things are what influence you as a musician. But the problem is that the way that people discover today is basically by searching online and looking for that genre. So I think that didn't coincide very well with the idea of how people actually create music. So we came up with this concept of music scenes, basically discovering music based on location and time. And that led to a more specific customer research where we understood that the people who actually enjoy very much discovering that type of music, the hardcore fans, are actually the musicians themselves. I mean, musicians are the ones that are constantly evolving and trying to learn more out of their the context about the people that they are connected with. Today everything is digitalized, so people think that because they have a digital connection, they already know about each other. But what we're trying to do is actually make those connections more tangible through music, and we think that that's kind of like the core of what we're trying to do with Stereotheque.
Speaking of what you do, so you've taught, you've probably mentored other people, and you've spoken at different conferences. So how does that teach you? By teaching others, by mentoring others, what have you gotten out of it?
When I started to teach, like one of the best experiences that I had was actually that teaching to young kids, right? And young kids are very open and they don't care about whether it's right or wrong, they just do, right? Especially with music, I mean, whatever they feel inspired, they just a way to express themselves. So the more that I taught, the more that I learned through them and from them, the more I learned about myself of how should I express music in a coherent way. And I love to be on a stage, whether it's performing or whether it's talking about my experience, because I think the more that you share your experience, the more you can learn and the more you can kind of like interact with people. And in the end, it's all about that. Like, how can you interact with people when you provide value, and then you can ask to people to give you value to you. So I think it's a wonderful experience just to teach and have kind of like that receiving and giving at the same time.
So for this next section, we're gonna just get Tomás to give us a couple of quick phrases to answer some of his musical preferences, to answer questions about his musical preferences. So, Tomás, what is the best concert or musical, any type of performance that you've ever attended?
Tough. I would say 9 Inch Nails. Yeah.
What do you have yet to see? Concert, anything that's musical. What do you have yet to see?
Wow. Well, I think I love musicals, so I would love to continue watching musicals from Broadway. I love that. I think it's a wonderful, experience. And I think from live shows, I would love to see. I don't know. I think more like Colombian bands. I love to see Colombian bands live. To keep kind of like up to date of what they're playing and how they're performing. So yeah.
What about? Can you give me an example of either an artist or a song, any type of piece that is super influenced by a ton of genres? You do a lot with different genres and discovery through Stereotheque. Yeah. So what is one artist or one song that you can think of that's just influenced by a ton of genres?
Okay. Well, I think, speaking probably from my own experience, at least Sound the City was one, and my band was very influenced by a lot. But I think an external one, Bomba Estéreo, is a very prominent band in Colombia.
Who would you record with, dead or alive? Producer, artist, singer, anything.
Okay. I would like to record with, let's say, Mark Ronson. I think he's a very cool, interesting producer, and I would like to see what's his kind of like creative process as well.
Okay, Mark, Tomás Uribe, New York City. How do you think music has affected culture, politics? Like, you can give any example that you'd like. How do you think it's impacted general culture?
I think music has always impacted general culture throughout different points of history, and I think
for change.
Right. So for example, I think one of the things that we recently wrote a piece at our Stereotheque, at a content platform, and it was about the 100 years anniversary of the First World War. And around that time, ragtime, it was kind of like this funky piano that people started to adopt. It wasn't very popular, but throughout that moment, a lot of people started to adopt it. And it really kind of like coincided with this moment where the ship, the Lusitania, it was a ship from here that went down, and that kind of like started the whole idea of United States coming into being part of the war. So I think like ragtime always, or music at least in that point in time, had a lot of influence and relationships with race, with war itself, with cultural dynamics that were happening around that time in America, but also in relation to the rest of the world. So I think that was a very like important point of history of that music became really influential for people to unite.
How do you think technology has changed? What impact has it had on music from the MP3 through now? You can pick any example.
I remember a lot when the kind of like Napster and LimeWire and all of these kind of like peer-to-peer file sharing started to come out, and it was fascinating also like the idea to it was kind of like a competition of how you could get more content. But then obviously me living out of music came to the realization basically that that it's very hard to monetize it and to live off something that is something. Yeah. So, but definitely that was kind of like a shift that we knew as musicians, especially living in Colombia, where the industry was very nascent at that point. It was just starting out. That there was definitely going to be like other avenues where creativity had to be kind of like the source of anything that you were going to be able to monetize. So technology has always been a way that forces creators to adapt, to complement, and to think forward as to how they can actually use technology to their advantage rather than see it as an obstacle in what they do.
Ride the wave.
Yeah, ride the wave.
All right, so switching gears, going into something a little more fun, we're going to go into Finish the Lyric trivia, okay?
All right.
So wherever I stop, you continue and tell me what the next phrase of the song is, all right?
All right.
And then you have to tell me who sings it and if you know the name of the title of the song, all right?
I'm going to lose. All right.
Ella durmió al calor de las masas.
That's Soda Stereo. I remember. Yo desperté queriendo soñarla.
Soñarla.
All right.
Good. All right. Second. A mi manera despelucado.
That's Shakira.
They're Colombian.
Yeah, Carlos Vives,
Love
right?
Shakira.
Yeah. Despelucado. En una bici que te lleva a todo lado. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And what have I become, my sweetest friend?
What have I become, my sweetest friend? Wow, that's a tough one.
Do you know who sings it though?
Well, I have an idea, but no, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know.
So I saw it, two singers. One of them's Johnny Cash.
Okay.
And the
Heard.
other one is a
That's
band
Heard,
we
right?
love.
Yeah, that's Heard. Heard the song?
Yeah.
But I don't remember the exact lyric out of that. But yeah, it's a
Nine Inch
wonderful
Nails
song. Yeah, it's a beautiful
also
song.
does it. The next is Everyone I Know Goes Away in the End.
Okay, yeah.
That's the next lyric.
I remember that now forever.
All right, so if there was a movie made of your life, what would be the soundtrack, the initial opening song?
I love a song by Bomba Stereo called Somos Dos.
A couple pivot questions for you. What sound do you love? Anything. People, instruments, whatever.
The sound of my bass guitar. Yeah, bass guitar.
What sound do you hate?
Well, a lot of them, but I would say the worst is the brakes of a subway train, kind of like stopping and like really high pitch, screeching like in the subway. It's awful. And
so every day.
Yeah, every single day. I hate it. Yeah, that sound is horrible.
All right, we've gotten to the portion where I'm going to turn it over to you for a few seconds. If you can give us, your pitch. Share something that you're doing that you're excited about. Recommend something to our audience.
Okay. So I'm really happy to share that in a few days, a couple of weeks probably. We're going to be releasing Stereotheque, the first version of stereotheque.com. You're welcome to sign it if you're an emerging artist or interested, musician. We're going to be releasing the beta. So Stereotheque is basically a platform that we help emerging musicians connect with each other and find exclusive content through those connections. So I think it's going to be a great community of people that love and create music. So you're welcome to go to stereotheque.com, sign up, and share with other musicians.
All right, thanks. Now, if you can complete this sentence, we're getting toward the end.
All right.
The purpose of music in this world is
Love.
love. All right, Tomás, thanks for being here
Thank
today.
you. That was great.
Thanks for sharing your musical journey with us. And viewers, thanks for tuning in. Until the next episode.
Thank you.
This was Make No Little Plans with Ivonne.